Imagine a world where your favorite screen legend, beloved by millions, was secretly tearing sets apart, blackmailing co-stars, or hiding scandals behind a smile. The glamour masks the chaos. Tonight, we dive behind the red carpet and discover some of Hollywood's most turbulent legends, the ones whose public images were carefully crafted, even as storms raged behind the scenes. Let's start with someone whose name still echoes with brilliance and volatility. Marlon Brando, the method rebel, who broke every rule. Brando's reputation as a fearless actor is iconic, but off-screen, he often used that intensity as permission to go his own way, even if it meant alienating nearly everyone around him. He would show up unprepared, refuse to learn lines, demand entire rewrites, even for minor scenes, and yet, somehow he delivered performances that stunned. His rebellious energy became part of his legend. He once refused his own Oscar in 1973, sending a Native American activist to decline it in his place, a controversial protest gesture no one saw coming. Behind that moment was a man who hated the system but also needed it. He alienated directors, battled authority, and chased personal chaos. His relationships were chaotic too, dozens of lovers, multiple children, secrets, even today. Still, Brando reminds us, sometimes the most magnetic stars are fueled by internal disarray. And what happens when brilliance becomes collateral damage? Keep that in mind, because our next story is darker. William Desmond Taylor, the director murdered in silence. In the silent era, long before sound, Hollywood had its own unsolved mysteries. William Desmond Taylor was a prolific director in the 19-teens and early 20s. On one February night in 1922, he was found shot dead in his own bungalow. The case exploded in the press. Love letters, secret affairs, vanished suspects, but no answers. One of the prime suspects? Mary Miles Minter, a young actress enamored of Taylor, with letters that vanished or were destroyed. Taylor's death wasn't just a crime story. It revealed a darker underbelly of early Hollywood, where power, sex, youth, and ambition collided. The studio machine, gossip columns, and cover-ups all converged. The result, an enduring, unresolved legend that haunted Tinseltown. What's scarier, a star's downfall or their sudden disappearance? We'll return to that theme. Anthony Pellicano, the fixer whose records blew open Hollywood's secrets. If the studios once silenced scandals, the modern era birthed a new breed, the fixer. Anthony Pellicano is perhaps the most infamous of them. He wasn't an actor. He was Hollywood's go-to problem solver. Phone taps, extortion, surveillance, deleting leaks. He worked for A-list clients, powerful executives, even celebrities. Then, the house of cards collapsed. In two separate trials in the 2000s, he was convicted of wiretapping, racketeering, witness tampering crimes orchestrated deep in Hollywood's machinery. What's most chilling? The list of clients and names he dragged down with him. People who once seemed untouchable were exposed, blackmailed, or forced to sever ties. Today, Pellicano is a marker proof that even the fixer can't hide forever. And if you think that's the worst Hollywood can do, brace yourself. Some scandals never die. Judy Garland, the brilliant star, consumed by her own spotlight. Judy Garland was a shining voice, a luminous presence, a child star turned legend, but her off-screen life was suffused with pain, control, and sacrifice. From a young age, studios manipulated her diet, drugs to stay slim, sedatives to manage mood, pressure to perform even when broken. She was propped up, drugged, and polished for the screen. As she grew older, she couldn't outrun the managed persona. The real Judy was fragile, vulnerable, trapped under a facade of perfection. She battled addiction. She had multiple marriages. She had breakdowns. She sometimes didn't show up. Yet in her performances, she poured raw emotion. In every tremor, heartbreak, and wail, you saw someone carrying the weight of forced perfection. Her life asks, what price does fame demand? And who pays when the curtain falls? Lana Turner, femme fatale, scandal magnet. Lana Turner had screen presence in spades. Glamour, drama, romance in pieces. She could attract every kind of headline. But her personal life was tangled with danger. Her teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed Turner's gangster boyfriend Johnny Stompanato to death one night after a violent confrontation. The incident erupted into tabloid mania. There was never a dry moment. Turner's affairs, clashes with directors, demands on set, tensions with co-stars. Every glamorous photo had a darker story behind it. She became the walking billboard for scandal, masterfully glamorous, vulnerably human. Her story makes us confront a truth. Sometimes the legend's glint is fueled by raw turmoil. Charlie Chaplin, the comic genius, branded a villain. Chaplin's comedic mastery is timeless. He made us laugh, cry, think. But in life, he walked a tightrope between adoration and vilification. He was accused of moral misconduct, dragged through courtrooms, targeted by political enemies. His multiple marriages, especially to much younger women, became fodder for critics. The U.S. government even tried to deport him. What's remarkable is how he was recast not just as an entertainer, but a political symbol, a moral battleground. The man whose tramp character made people feel empathy was transformed into a public liability. For Chaplin, brilliance and pressure weren't separate, they were inseparable. And that leads us to a person who refused to be manipulated silently. Bette Davis versus Joan Crawford. When two queens warred in palace intrigue, these weren't solo downfalls. Sometimes the backstage war is between icons. The feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford is classic Hollywood lore, blistering, bold, and bitter. They clashed on Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? But their war was older. Accusations, slights, public shade, each move calculated. Crawford demanded control. Davis fought for respect. Neither would cede ground. Their rivalry bled into every public moment. Interviews, set tensions, their portrayals of each other in gossip columns. This wasn't accidental drama, this was deliberate. Each woman weaponized her star power and narrative to define herself and wound the other. When stars fight, the cost is reputational. And sometimes audiences forget, but the industry remembers. The undertold champion, Mary Miles Minter, and scandal's fallout. We touched on her in the Taylor story. Mary Miles Minter was a rising star. In the silent era, young, promising. She was deeply tied to Taylor's murder case, suspected by tabloids and whispers of romantic entanglement. Her letters, influences, and possible involvement made her a casualty of suspicion. Her career faded, her name dimmed. She became an example of how scandal can consume someone entirely. This story matters because not everyone survives the spotlight's blaze. Some are burned, buried, and forgotten except in footnotes. Howard Hughes, the billionaire director morphing into recluse. Hughes was a figure larger than life. Inventor, tycoon, film producer, aviation pioneer. But as he aged, his eccentricities metastasized. Obsessive germ fears, extreme isolation, paranoia. His public persona devolved into a recluse who communicated via memos. He'd hoard scripts, re-edit movies endlessly, or lock himself away for months at a time. Hughes' descent was not just mental, it was symbolic. He embodied the collision of power and fragility. The man who had everything ended up imprisoned by his own mind, with Hollywood distant and fractured. Because when control is everything, losing it becomes inevitable. Buster Keaton and Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle scandals that reshaped Hollywood's rules. These two men's stories poignantly illustrate how scandal rewrote Hollywood's power balance. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was once beloved, comedic, generous, charismatic. But in 1921, a party ended in a woman's death. He was accused, tried, acquitted, yet his reputation was destroyed. The courts cleared him, but Hollywood would not. Buster Keaton, a comedy genius, struggled under new studio constraints. He was controlled, pressured, hampered by physical injuries and loss of creative freedom. His soul quieted. Together, they show how scandal and institutional collapse transform even the funniest personas into cautionary tales. The industry learned, one misstep, real or not, could close your doors. Conclusion, final twist, and call to reflect. So what do all these stories share? Chaos, yes, but also choices, power, masks. Hollywood isn't just about actors and films. It's about secrets, control, and the gravity of reputation. These legends remind us that no matter how radiant the spotlight, darkness rides beside it. Sometimes brilliance shields turmoil. Other times, turmoil fuels brilliance. And often, the public never sees the second half of the story. Which of these tales surprised you the most? Which scandal would you dig into next? In the comments, drop the one legend you want me to unravel further, and maybe I'll bring even more hidden stories to the light. Because behind every icon glimmers an untold plotline. Let's go find them together.